Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Miller. I'm the forum chairperson, and George Bledsoe is the technology person. Today we are going to have Derek Mosley talk about the Lubar Center. Next week will be a journey to the Sacred Heart of China, and Dennis Merritt will be speaking. So without any further ado, Derek.
Brendan, come around this way. How's everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me. Let me just start by just telling you who I am. So my name is Derek Mosley. I am the director of Marquette University Law School's Lubar Center for Public Policy Research and Civic Education. Prior to that, I was a judge in Milwaukee for 20 years. Prior to that, I was an assistant district attorney in Milwaukee County for about 7.5 years. I'm here to talk to you about the Lubar Center. I've been there for about 2 years. I'll just give you a little overview. As I mentioned, I am the director. So I oversee all the things that we do. I'll go through all the things that we do here at the Lubar Center so you get a good idea. Most people who are familiar with the Lubar Center have had most contact with our program manager, that's Hillary DeBlois. So any emails that come out from the center, they come from Hillary. Any questions you have about events that we host, they also come out from Hillary. Other people who work for the Lubar are John Johnson. John Johnson is our policy advisor. He is responsible for doing all our public policy work. Lately it's been focusing on elections. I'll get into it in a little bit more detail later. Alan Borsick does all of our education programming. So any K through 12 education programming that we host at the Lubar, Alan Borsick will do that. You might be familiar with Charles Franklin. Dr. Charles Franklin is also part of the Lubar Center. He runs the Marquette Law Poll and a number of other things. You can rally him to get back into town. He's always traveling across the country talking about the poll. You might be familiar with Craig Gilbert. Craig Gilbert writes for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He's also part of the Lubar Center. He does all the articles that do with events that we do at the Lubar Center. Who you may not be familiar with is Professor Dave Striffling. Professor Striffling is a professor of environmental law at the law school, but he also is the director of the Water Law Institute, which is also under the umbrella of the Lubar Center. You are all familiar, I don't have to tell you all, that we probably sit on the largest reserve of fresh water here in the country. And we are trying to protect that resource. It's a finite resource. And if the powers that be had their way, they would be siphoning the water from the Great Lakes. And we are trying to stop that from happening. And Dr. Striffling runs that program. We were started by Shell and Marianne Lubar. Shell Lubar was getting kind of upset about the things that are going on in our country. We don't tend to talk to each other. We don't live in the same neighborhoods. Our kids don't go to the same schools. So he wanted to come up with a center where we could all get together, regardless of your race, your religion, economic status, political ideologies, come into the same room to listen and learn. We always start with listen, because we want people to listen more than to speak, but to listen and learn from each other. And so all of our events are all centered around that concept. First and foremost, the Lubar Center we are a venue. We host all of our events in the venue you see here located inside Marquette Law School. We also do events outside of the law school, but the vast majority of the events that you will see, that you will attend, will take place in this room that you see here. We try to bring people together of different cultures and religions and nationalities, and we do it in different ways. We do these events to do that, to make that happen. One of the events we do is called On the Issues. So we will take an issue that's important to people not only locally but nationally and bring in the players for a conversation between myself and them. And then we open it up to questions for people if they have any questions. This was an event we threw last January. You may not be aware, or maybe you are aware, that Wisconsin is dead. Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, yeah. I heard it before too. That work better? Okay. All right, so we do this our On the Issues program, and this is one example of it. I'm not sure if you are aware, but Wisconsin is ranked dead last in arts and museum funding in the country. Yes, we are behind Mississippi. We spent roughly about 18 cents per resident on arts and museum funding. To put that into perspective, Minnesota spends about $10 per person. They are the best in the country at it. We are dead last. And so, so we do events like this to bring people in who are trying to combat this problem, whether it's a funding issue they're trying to combat, or whether it's trying to change legislation so that we give more money to the arts. We also do On the Issues that are national, not just here in the state of Wisconsin. We have one actually next week. We're talking about the death penalty next week. Right before President Biden left office, he commuted the death row sentences of all death row inmates from death to life in prison. That was his last thing he did. He did it at the behest of Sister Helen Prejean. And so we have Sister Helen coming back in next weekend. She'll be in next week, I should say, April 17th. She's going to be at the Lubar Center because one of the first executive orders that was passed in the new administration was to reinstitute the death penalty. And so her mission, she thought she was ready to retire, but she's 86 years old and still doing it. And so she'll be in next week to talk about what things she's doing now to combat the death penalty. When she says she's pro-life, she is pro-life from birth to death. And so we'll have her in. But that's an example of the On the Issues programs we throw at the Lubar Center. We also do an event called Get to Know, where we bring in people locally that affect our lives every day that we might not even know even exist. So we threw one we throw them every month. But one that people aren't familiar with is Dominic Ortiz. We invited him. He's actually the president and CEO of Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. And even though they're responsible for generating about $44+ million of revenue into the city of Milwaukee, no one even knows who he is. He might be sitting in this room right now and have no idea who he is. But we brought him in just to tell not only his story, but also the story of the Potawatomi. A lot of people aren't familiar with this story, but there was a treaty. The treaty was in 1819. It's called the Treaty of Chicago. And in that Treaty of Chicago, there was supposed to be a treaty between the U.S. government and the various tribes that were in this area. Well, the Potawatomi didn't want to sign the agreement, so half of the tribe fled north to Forest County, Wisconsin. At the time, it was just a territory. And the other half actually signed it and went down to Kansas. And so Potawatomi actually has two centers. One's here in Forest County, because the U.S. government went up to Forest County to try to find the Potawatomi, but they did a pretty good job hiding. They couldn't find them. And so they just quit and said, we're not going to look for them anymore. And so that's why we have the Forest County Potawatomi, despite the fact that the whole nation is actually based in Kansas. And Dominic is actually a member of that Red Prairie, Kansas band of Potawatomi. But it's interesting because they generate so much revenue for the city of Milwaukee, which is unbelievable. But it's also a music venue. It's also bingo. They have a whole bunch of things that makes it an entertainment complex. They're also responsible for actually funding the HOP, the train that goes through Milwaukee. Which was half of it was, I'm sure, very generous and beneficial. The other half is they want to stop with Potawatomi eventually. And so, but things like that, get to meet and ask questions of people who affect our lives every day, but really don't know who they are. We also do national get-to-knows, where we do a thing called the face of the case. When you're a law student or a lawyer and you study cases, we just talk about the case names. And so we'll say a name like, if you're involved in criminal law, one of the biggest criminal law cases is Terry versus Ohio. And it's a case that says that police officers just don't have the right to walk up to you and just start searching you. They have to have some articulable suspicion or reasonable suspicion that you committed a crime. And so I thought if I was in law school, I would love to meet Terry. This is the person that had the case that is Fourth Amendment law here in the United States. Now Terry's deceased, but I thought I would try to do the same thing for law students and the community. So our first one we threw last year, it was James Obergefell. James Obergefell is from the historic Supreme Court case Obergefell versus Hodges, which was the case that legalized gay marriage in the United States. So Jim Obergefell came to the Lubar Center and we had an interview. Him and I interviewed him and we opened it up for questions. So we tried to bring in people to make it real for our law students and also for the community. You get too caught up on case names and you forget that these are real people with real problems that affected our lives every day. We have a get to know actually coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to have Mary Beth Tinker. People who are in education law know her very well, but she's become really relevant lately. Mary Beth Tinker was a 13-year-old in the 70s, early 70s. She went to school with a black armband that had a peace symbol on it to protest the Vietnam War. The principal asked her to take it off. She refused to take it off, and so they suspended her. So they hired a lawyer, and the lawyer took the case, and they argued that case all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. They established a test called the Tinker test, and that Tinker test determines, it actually gives rights. Oh, did that just pop on now?
Yeah.
Wow.
George just put it on.
Oh, okay with that? I'm fine with me. Okay. And so Tinker versus, so the case was Tinker versus Des Moines, because this happened in Des Moines, Iowa. And that case gave First Amendment rights to students, which we thought we had settled that, but if you read the newspaper or watch the news now, we're now arresting students for exercising their First Amendment rights. And so I'm bringing in Mary Beth Tinker in 2 weeks. She's going to come in and talk about why she thought it was important to fight this case in the early 1970s, and she is completely distraught that we're still fighting this case today in 2025. All these events are open to the public, so unfortunately, Sister Helen Prejean is completely booked. But we got a few seats left, though, for Mary Beth Tinker, and that's in 2 weeks. So please, you can jump on our website. I have some information that you can jump on the website and sign up. Every event is free. Our events take place over the noon hour, so we do them from 12:15 to 1:15. We provide lunch. And free parking. So you get free parking, lunch, and then great conversation and get to meet great people. As I mentioned before, we went on the Marquette Law Poll, which just this year was voted the second most reliable poll in the country, behind New York Times. We're closing on them. We're getting there. As I told you, it is our director of that poll is Dr. Charles Franklin, and we were really popular this past year. We hosted a number of events. We hosted the RNC here as a city, but we hosted an event for all the media that came into Milwaukee for the RNC. And we had Dr. Franklin available and John Johnson. Just so you guys understand, I'm telling you, so you know about the poll. Like I said, second ranked highest poll in the country.
Who determines
Yeah.
who's the second ranked or first ranked?
Yeah, so that was done by a couple organizations. One was 538, is a website by Nate Silver. Nate Silver has his own poll and his own podcast. That's one. And the second one was New York Times. And New York Times ranked themselves number one, ranked us number two. That's okay. That's all right. I probably do the same. So that's okay. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about, I told you about John Johnson earlier. He's our public policy guy. So what John has done is he tries to do after every election, he has put together this tool, which is available to the public. You can grab it off of our website. And on this tool, he will break down for you ward by ward how everybody voted on everything. So whether it's the presidential election, whether it's the Supreme Court election, whether it's amendments to the Constitution, those referendums, he breaks it down ward by ward. So you'll see it like this on our website, and you can click any of those boxes and it'll expand, and you can click your ward and it will tell you what the breakdown, how many people voted yes, how many people voted no in your very ward. So it's almost block to block.
So this is the last election for the constitutional amendment?
Yes, I believe this is.
So Milwaukee overwhelmingly voted no, but the surrounding.
Oh, yeah, we got clobbered everywhere else. Yeah. But that, but this gives you an idea so you can take a look at it and figure out exactly how each region voted. And this tool has become extremely popular after every election. And so we will continue to do it. John will continue to put this out after every election. We also hosted both Supreme Court candidates at the Lubar. It's very difficult in this day and age, and I think this is just the nature of the beast. People generally don't want to debate each other anymore. And so we still want people to know the candidates. So we've had to host a series of get-to-knows instead of debates. So we would bring in each candidate individually so they could have a conversation. At first, I was a little leery about it because it defeats the whole purpose of the political system. You should be debating your opponent. But I found these to be actually really helpful because you get through all the BS, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because you get to ask straight questions of the candidate. And they were really popular. Both of them sold out for both Brad Schimmel's and for Susan Crawford's. We also hosted a debate. The venue for the WISN had a debate with these two candidates, and we hosted it at the Lubar Center as well. We will continue to do those things. We also throw these ethnic heritage dinners, and I kind of brought this with me from the bench. I am, a side job of mine, I'm a James Beard Foundation judge. So I travel the country chasing different restaurants and voting on best chef.
Tough job.
Yeah, it's a terrible job. Terrible job. And so I thought I would bring that to the Lubar Center. I pitched it to Shell, Lubar, and he loved it because this is our goal. Our goal is to bring people together of different cultures to learn from each other. Our motto was meet someone, learn something, and try everything. We throw 4 a year, so we do one in February for Black History Month. So we have African American heritage tasting, ethnic heritage tasting. So we brought in chefs from Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, Madagascar, and these chefs would prepare dishes that are traditional to the culture. So when you show up at the venue, we seat you at tables of people you don't know. We give time for you all to talk and get to know each other. And then we bring out the chefs, and the chefs come out and say, well, you know, I'm from Ethiopia. The dish you're going to try today is this dish, and why it's important to our culture because these ingredients are really close to us where we live. And then we do a sampling, and you get to try all these dishes, and I bring in entertainment. I have some entertainment. We throw 4, I told you, so we do Black History Month in February. In May, our next one's in May, is Asian American Pacific Islander Month. And so we will be bringing in, focusing on Southeast Asia. So that we'll be bringing in chefs from that culture to prepare those dishes and have entertainment. In October, September, as Latino Hispanic Heritage Month. So we'll bring in chefs from that culture to come on in and explain their culture and these different dishes. And then the one that's been really popular lately is in November, we do Native Heritage Month. And so I bring in chefs who are Potawatomi, Oneida, Ho-Chunk, to come in and to prepare traditional, non-colonized Native dishes, which is great because Native populations didn't have the things that we were so used to. They didn't have butter, they didn't have sugar, they didn't have salt, they didn't have these things. And so they used to use all the items that were available to them to create that same taste that we get with those things. I was fortunate enough, like I told you, because I had that crazy connection with the James Beard Foundation. We hosted Top Chef Wisconsin here, if you guys were aware. They did one of the episodes was about native dishes, and I was able to bring all of those native chefs to the Lubar Center to perform for everybody there. So it was awesome. So that's another thing that we do at the Lubar Center. If that wasn't enough stuff, we also run a summer youth institute, and we do these for 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, going into 8th, 9th, and 10th graders. And we want to sort of immerse them into the law. A lot of young people think they know what the law is all about. They want to be lawyers, but don't really know the full extent of what we do with the law. So this is like it's a 7-day program. And on the 7 days, the youth come on in and we give them a case. And by the end of the 7 days, they will argue these cases in front of Supreme Court and Court of Appeals judges. They'll learn how to public speak, they'll learn how to make arguments, and they have to defend their clients in these cases in front of real judges. We also take them on field trips so they get to see all other parts of the law. We go to the city courthouse, the state courthouse, county courthouse I should say, and the federal courthouse. We also take them to places they weren't used to, they didn't think lawyers were a part of. So this past year, we went to the Milwaukee Brewers, because the Brewers have lawyers. When you watch baseball, you see the Brewers are wearing a uniform. On the uniform, you might see a little Nike swoosh. That just doesn't happen by happenstance. That's a contract that was generated between the Brewers and Nike, and all that's done by lawyers. So we give these youth an opportunity to get a feel for what it's like to be a lawyer. And it's not necessarily going into court arguing criminal cases. It can be a wide range of things. They love that tour the most because we got to go on the field, they got to run the bases, and all this stuff. Right. This is not what the lawyers do, but go ahead, run around the bases. So that's one of the summer things we do. We do 2 things this summer. That's one. The other one is the medal program. The medal program is actually a program that I started when I was on the bench, and I brought it over with me. MEDAL is an acronym for Medicine, Engineering, Dentistry, Architecture, and Law. When this program starts, and this program is for middle school students, and when the program starts, I ask every kid in the program, and we take 10 to 12 kids for this program, and I say, write down what you want to do for a living. And they all write it on a sheet of paper. I tell them to put it in an envelope and seal the envelopes, and I collect all the envelopes. And the way the MEDAL program works, it's a 1-week program. It's from 9 a.m. to noon. And we immerse them in those 5 fields that I just mentioned. So Monday, we go to the Medical College of Wisconsin. They get to meet med students. They get to sit in a med classroom to figure out what they're talking about. And then they get to do activities that med students get to do while they're learning to be doctors. Tuesday's the E for engineering. We go to MSOE. They get to meet engineering students, and I also mentioned they get these bags full of swag, like medical college t-shirts. This is why I asked for the swag bags. Maybe one of the best promoters in the history of this state is David Gruber. And if you go anywhere in this city, you will see some kid wearing a Gruber Law Office t-shirt. And so I said, why can't we get these kids wearing t-shirts of the medical college or MSOE? And so I have make sure every kid gets a t-shirt. But we go to the medical college, we go to the Milwaukee School of Engineering, where the kids learn to code. And so they get a car, and the car can only move if they can code the directions for the car to move. And they have these taped tracks, and the kid who gets his car to get to the end the quickest gets a gift certificate to wherever they want to go. I think we have Target, we have all these different McDonald's, which is all they care about, and all these other places like that. But they get to learn how to code, and they get to meet engineering students. Wednesday is the D. We go to the School of Dentistry at Marquette. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, did you say how many students are enrolled?
This one's 10 to 12.
How many?
10 to 12?
10 and 12 kids.
Yep.
Okay.
And so on the Wednesday, we go to the dental school. They get to meet dental students. They get to sit in a dental class. And these kids actually get to make a mold of their own teeth. which is cool. It's also cool too, I'll show you a little bit later, but they get to make a mold of their teeth and they get to keep it and bring it with them, but they get an idea of what all the teeth in their mouth, and they get to learn how to fill a tooth. So they learn how to use the putty, put the putty in and to actually fill a tooth. Thursday we go to MATC, and the A is for architecture, but I've also included the trades because MATC is hurting for people who are interested in the trades. And so I bring the kids in and they learn everything from plumbing to culinary to HVAC to architecture, and they get to see what it's like to do all those things. And then finally we end off at the law school, where at the law school they, same thing, it's like a really compressed version of our institute. They get a case, they get to argue the case, and they argue it in front of judges as well. Just to show you, I got some pictures to show you what it looks like. So when they show up at the medical college, all the kids are given white coats like they were med students. And they get to do rounds. If you haven't been to the medical college is phenomenal because it's sort of, they've replicated Frederick Hospital. So you get off on the elevator and it's like being on a floor at Frederick. So the individual patient rooms, but each patient room has these unbelievable dummies that talk and move and blink. And the first time we did this, we sent this very class went into the room and there's this patient in the bed, under the blanket, and the med student says, you should ask the patient what's hurting them. And the students are like, it's a dummy. And I'm like, we'll just ask, we're gonna act like it's a real person. And so they're like, so what's hurting you? And the dummy turned his head and started talking, and this girl screamed and ran. Because they're not used to it, it's frightening. Because they move, and what the kids don't know is there's a person who's behind the wall, and that person speaks, the dummy speaks. But they get an idea. So then we do rounds, and they go from room to room, and they ask what's wrong with everybody. Like, oh, my belly aches, and they go through that. They also get to identify where organs are in their bodies. And so they get a real patient who lays down and they do ultrasounds, and the kids have to find where their kidneys are, the liver is, and things like that. So it's a hand-on experience for these youth. And what you may or may not know, we are hosting the Florentine Opera at the Lubar Center because it's a brand new opera about Justice Scalia and Justice Ginsburg. Although they were completely diametrically opposed from each other, they were best friends. And they absolutely loved the opera. And so they put together this opera, and the Florentine Opera asked us if we would host it at the Lubar, because in that room I showed you about the Lubar Center, you saw the back of the room, but the front of the room is that actual courtroom. So we remove a wall and there's a bench there, and the opera is about Scalia has been charged with a crime and he calls on his best friend to defend him, and that being Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And so those tickets are available right now through the Florentine Opera's website, their box office. So please feel free to do that and come and show. It's an orchestra, the whole works. It's going to be quite a thing. So please come check that out. And that's all I have. Wow. Anybody have any questions about the Lubar Center? Yeah. You know everything about the Lubar Center. You're always there.
But yeah, I was going to say, I've been going there since the Mike Boucher days, and I love what you've been doing with all these programs that you brought to it.
I appreciate it.
One of the ones I really liked was with the new president of Marquette, where he talked about how his mission is to figure out how to lead with love and teach kids to do that as a kind of a Jesuit education mission.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, what are some of the real enjoyable interviews that you've done?
Oh, that's a great question. So yeah. Oh, good to hear. So the question was, as I mentioned, I do a lot of the interviews of the individuals that come in for our Get to Know on the Issues programs. And the question was, what is one of my favorite interviews? Dr. Kimo Ayun, the first person of color to ever be president of Marquette University, only the second lay president. he's an unbelievable, remarkable man. He grew up in Compton, California. And if you're familiar with Compton, California, the statistics of African Americans getting out of Compton, California and accomplishing something huge is very slim. And not only did he get out, he became president of Marquette University. That's a great interview. I thought Jim Obergefell was a great interview. Sister Helen Prejean may be my favorite. She's amazing. She's a little dynamo. She has the documentary out right now called Rebel Nun. And it talks about how she is a staunch advocate of abolishing the death penalty. But that's a great question, thank you. Yes?
This is about you.
Oh, yeah.
How did you land that James Beard gig?
Oh, so the question was, how did I land the James Beard gig? So I am a food blogger.
A foodie.
Yeah, I'm a foodie. And so basically what I do is on social media platforms, I go to eat at restaurants and I just post pictures of the food. I don't talk about it as if it's good or bad, I just post pictures of the food. And that's how James Beard found me. My social media presence is pretty big. I'm followed by over 100,000 people. And so they saw that and they said, hey, would you like to be a James Beard, try out to be a judge? And I said, yeah, sure. So you go through this training where you taste salt and sour and try to get a feel for food. And then the application process said, why do you think you would make a good judge? And I just answered, well, because I am a judge. I'm literally a judge. And so,
We still call you judge.
yeah, well, you don't lose the title. You keep the title, like president and stuff like that, but yeah, you don't have to call me judge. But anyway, that's how I got the gig. And then, my region is North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And so there's various stages of judges. So there's a scout judge, there's a tasting judge, and then there's the final judge who makes the call. So the scout judges go out first. So I was the scout judge. And so I got to go to these different places and try different restaurants. And I compile a list. I send that to the tasting judges. They go to those places I listed, they taste the food. They say, yeah, he's right, that was pretty good, we should put them in it. And then there's a final judge who goes to those ones that broke it down from my list, and that's the final check. That's how the process works. Like I said, it's a terrible job.
No, somebody's got it.
Someone's got to do it. Okay. In the back, yes.
Marquette is a Jesuit Catholic university,
Yes, ma'am.
and what distinguishes the law school from Yale or Harvard or anything else?
That's the greatest question. I love that question. That's the easiest question I've been asked today. All right, so the question was, Marquette is a Catholic Jesuit institution, and what distinguishes Marquette Law School from other law schools like Yale and Harvard? And so, at Marquette, at the law school, we take this two-word term, Marquette lawyer, very seriously. And we take it very seriously because our mission, not only as a university, but as a law school, is the saying, cura personalis, care for the whole person. And so we teach our lawyers not just to worry about trying to make as much money as you possibly can, but also to give back to our community. In fact, no other law school students do more pro bono work or free work, legal work, than Marquette Law School. Nobody at Harvard, nobody at Yale, no other law school does more free pro bono legal work than Marquette does. Right now, we have been crazy busy because our law students are doing a lot of immigration law right now, trying to help those who have green cards, don't have green cards. I was having a conversation a little bit earlier when I first got here. We aren't, we're not immune from what's going on in the country right now. We have international students that attend our school whose visas are being revoked. And so our law students are fighting those battles as well. And so what distinguishes us from all of those other schools is that we teach you the law, we teach you not only the letter of the law, we teach you the spirit of the law, and we teach you how to care for each other. So we take a lot of pride in that, and when you graduate, you are called a Marquette lawyer. We don't call you a lawyer, we call you a Marquette lawyer, because we feel that we're different from lawyers from other schools. So thank you for that question. Yes?
Speaking of Marquette being a Jesuit institution, one of the things I've read recently in news sources is that faculty at Marquette are very interested in having a union and collectively bargaining and working with management there. And unlike a lot of other Catholic Jesuit institutions like Loyola Chicago, many others, Marquette refuses to recognize their union and to deal with them, even though Catholic doctrine is that unions are essential. They're fundamental to equality and dignity. They're highly supported by the Catholic Church. So I'm just wondering if you've been able to give any forum for an honest debate about what's going on with faculty and ways, given the conditions I'm reading about for part-time faculty that are terrible.
Yeah, part-time faculty is it's a tough gig, for sure. Yeah, and that is something that's currently going on right now as we speak, between the, we call it the mothership university and the law school. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We right now don't recognize the right to union for our faculty, for our, I should say our associate faculty. And so, I don't know what you're going to tell us above my pay grade. That's.
Well, is there, are you able to provide a forum for open data?
Yeah, so we actually have, so our dean is part of that whole conversation, and he has a conversation, but that's not a conversation we have for the whole population, for all of Milwaukee. This is a conversation that we're having inside Marquette to handle ourselves. And we're actually doing that right now with Dr. Yoon. I don't know where he stands on that. That was he's only been the president for 4 months now, and that was a prior administration's policy, so I don't know if it's going to change. I'm not sure where he stands on that, so I'm not really equipped to answer that question. But it's a legitimate question, and I agree with you. I grew up in a union family. I'm from Chicago. I grew up in a union family, so on that one, you're preaching to the choir. Any other questions? No other questions about the Lubar Center? Well, I want you all to come and visit us. We're doing some great work. We're giving you an opportunity to be heard. We're giving you the opportunity to talk about different issues that affect us. We like to consider ourselves Milwaukee's town hall. And speaking of that, we're in the process of having a town hall, trying to get our elected officials on both sides of the aisle to come in for a town hall. No surprise, the Democratic officials have already agreed. We're still trying to get the Republican officials to join us so we can have a town hall, so people can be heard. Yep.
Do you accept nominations or suggestions for people?
Absolutely.
What's the process for doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, do I accept nominations or subject solutions or subject that we show people should? Yeah, you can send me an email. Here, let me do this. Right there. So law.marquette.edu/Lubar-Center. Right there, you can send the emails to that, and then we take all those suggestions. In fact, that's how I found out about the arts funding issue. I was unaware of it. I knew we weren't high, but I didn't know we were dead last. So, yes, so we do take those suggestions. So please send them if there's someone you know that you think is interesting, or someone who wrote a book that you think that might be interesting. We bring in a lot of authors as well. So, yes?
You mentioned the art funding, and we just went yesterday to the what's called Festival City Symphony, which is free at the Symphony Center, and it was fantastic. We came away thinking that we must be at least in the middle. So why?
Yeah,
Can you tell why?
I'll tell you why. I know why it's so good, even though we're dead last, is that it's private philanthropy. That's the only reason that it's so good. It's not from the funding we get from the feds or the funding we get from the state. It's because there's publicly or privately funded philanthropists who donate all of that money so that we have these arts. We throw big events like UPATH throws the ride for the arts and things like that, which generate a lot of money, but it's not even close to what individual states are spending per person compared to what we're spending. And it's so bad when they have the list of how much each state spends per person. We spend so little that we're not even on the list because it's so low that we can put us on the list.
Wow.
So, just to put it in perspective. Yes?
How can we request to attend a noon meeting?
Yeah, so all you have to do is go to that website right there, and you can get on our email list. And when you get on our email list, you get all of the notices of all our events that are coming up. And then you just register. You just give us your email and your name, and we'll put you on the list. And then you come on in, and we do, like we said, we provide lunch for everybody. We're only going to take up an hour of your time. We're not going to keep you long, but we're going to pack that hour of time full of not only information, but the ability for you to ask questions of all our guests.
And I always like to say it's the best free lunch in town.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's not free for me, but someone's paying for it. But it's free for you,
Yeah.
for sure.
Good.
All right. Well, please take a picture of this screen so you can get the website so you can all sign up and join us. We'd love to have you. The school, even though the school year is about to end in a month, we still do programming. We don't do a ton of programming over the summer just because people tend not to show up over the summer. I don't blame them. It's the only time it's beautiful out, so why would you want to come inside? And that's why we do all those youth programs over the summer. But our fall schedule will be released soon, and so we have some good stuff on tap. Our focuses are K through 12 education, public safety, the environment, housing, all of politics, and then the poll. So those are our basic foundations. So if you have any topics or any people in those categories, please let us know. We'll be happy to bring them in and have a conversation. All right, well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.